What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Loki Season 2 on Disney+, the first Marvel Cinematic Universe series to get a second season on Disney+. And Loki, of course, coming out 2 years ago in 2021, but I think to many, the best of the MCU series. I think at worst, the second best if you prefer WandaVision. But Loki, I think, really surprised all of us with a compelling and effective story about the multiverse and multiple timelines, and that is increasingly becoming rare in our very packed superhero storytelling world where the multiverse is ever present and not always told in an effective way, of course. So Loki coming back, definitely tantalizing. I think just like season 1, the specter of the time variance authority, the TVA, as like our core setting and like our core framing device. It's really effective with this form of storytelling. Hiddleston really at home in this performance as Loki, and I think does a really effective job in this spot. I think season 1 also some really nice casting of Owen Wilson as Mobius as well, and the Sylvie character as a pseudo villain, sometimes villain. Also really strong. And, I think the production design of this series really stands out compared to the majority of MCU series we've got. We're just coming off the creative nadir of the MCU on TV with Secret Invasion, one of the biggest disappointments in the history of the MCU. And, Loki season 2, I think there's a lot riding on this one. Also, we can't help but acknowledge that Jonathan Majors as Kang, and the many variants of Kang the Conqueror, is still in the series and will be playing an ever-present role. We'll be seeing him a lot. And, we see the visage of him in this first episode of season 2. And, that is Marvel's definitely in a challenging spot where, of course, Loki season 2 was filmed before any of the domestic violence allegations brought against Majors had come forward. Of course, that Majors trial has yet to begin. I believe it's happening soon this fall. So there's a chance, I'd say probably a likely chance, this is the last time we see Jonathan Majors as Kang. Obviously, this situation is been really difficult where I think obviously the issue of domestic violence and Jonathan Majors, in fact, seemingly, due to some other reporting, being a persistent abuser, that is more important than the fact that he's also a great actor. His performance as Kang, I think, is really lively from what we've got so far, and I think it stands in contrast to a lot of the other tone that you get with the MCU. It was a great fit, but if it turns out that, in fact, Majors is no good anymore, I think they'll recast him. And the Kang character, due to its variant nature, easy to pull off a recast. So we'll be seeing more of that, because obviously Marvel's not going to dump their villain. Their blockbuster movie and TV making is very important to them, whether it should be or not. That's the way it is. So probably the last time we see Kang. So we'll see how that goes. After one episode, I gotta say, Loki season 2 really kind of throwing you right into in media res. It's basically taking place right after the finale of season 1 ends, and of course that's where we were introduced to Majors playing one of the versions of Kang that Sylvie kills, He Who Remains. We'll be seeing other versions of Kang to follow, but we're given a lot of exposition. There's a lot to remember about where everything is, and we're kind of racing from the start as Loki is time skipping between the present and the past. When he goes back to the past, no one knows who he is because he hasn't been there yet. It's a pretty effective, timeline type, story action here. Again, similar to Loki season 1, where the timeline stuff was all pretty effective. So I expect season 2 to ultimately do what season 1 did a lot, where we're going to go to different settings and different times in the past and the future and things like that. And it should be just kind of fun. I'm not sure exactly what the core conflict will be with this season. I think that needs to be a bit more clear, and maybe that'll come up more once we eventually see Kang again in the flesh. So we'll see. But, I think season 1, really nice touch to introduce us to OB, aka Ouroboros, basically the TVA's IT/tech support figure who lives in the bottom basement of the TVA. And he, of course, is played by Ki Kwan, hot off, of course, the Oscar win for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Really nice piece of casting here. He fits right into the tone of the show, the tone of the MCU in general, and his introduction where OB is interacting with Loki and Mobius in the present, as well as Loki time skipping to the past and how they both are playing a little differently, whether they remember meeting Mobius and Loki or not. Quite fun. I think that fits well. I'm curious how much more of Obi we see in the season to follow, because of course Ki Kwan is, I think just really nice, pleasant presence and fits this tone nicely. And again, those continuous scenes where like we're watching the same scene play out in the past and the present at the same time. That's probably the best part about this Loki season 2 premiere. I'll be curious if this time skipping stuff is completely dropped, and we'll see if there's something more dynamic to follow. Notably, Loki season 2 has a new head writer, Michael Waldron, not involved with season 2, replaced by Eric Martin, who did some work on season 1. Michael Waldron has now moved on to writing Avengers Secret Wars, so he'll be in the Kang business, of course, to come. Raphael Kazel plays this TVA character X5. I'm not sure how important he will be, but he's also new. Yeah, so I think in general, like Loki season 1, really great as a self-contained story, and then kind of them using it as a backdoor into showing us Kang for the first time. All really effective. Now from here, I'm not sure where we go because, of course, we've seen Kang, again, since Loki Season 1. That was in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania earlier this year, both a commercial and critical disappointment for the MCU. So the Kang conflict is still not clearly defined the way the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet conflict was hanging over the backdrop of the early MCU really effectively. The Kang stuff is still undefined, and I think that's a broader issue affecting the MCU storytelling, where stuff that can live on its own, seemingly like Loki, that's fine. But when you have like the big bad in this story, it'd be nice if the big bad's like greater endgame was a bit more clear. That still wasn't really the case with Ant-Man 3. So I think the MCU still had a lot of work cut out for it in terms of getting audience investment in the greater story beyond the individual movies, because again, that was the great success of the MCU project in the past, having standalone projects that also were serving a greater future story as well. We're not in sync like that anymore. As much as I love Shang-Chi, for example, we don't really have a clear endpoint, even if we know we're going to Secret Wars and Avengers the Kang Dynasty before that. We know the Secret Wars story, if you know anything about the comics, but I still don't feel anywhere close to that. So we'll see if that changes. I'm not sure if putting all of that onus on a series like Loki, especially the second season of a series, makes all that much sense anyway. I want the movies to do this work, so I'm not really going to hold it against Loki, but I'll be curious to see how effective the plot mechanics feel with Loki season 2, because I know the characters are going to be fun. The Hiddleston performance is great. Mobius was a really nice addition. Hopefully OB sticks around. We know how great Sylvie is too. I know that's all going to be there. I'll be curious if the other stuff is too. Let me know, how are you feeling about Loki season 2 after the first episode? What do you most want to see with Loki season 2? And for more TV reviews, movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.